What's going on, guys? It's Matt Marino for Real Estate Recovery Group. As always, my co-host, Lee M. Perlman Esquire. And tonight, we got a special guest. I met this guy a couple of weeks ago, and I got to tell you, I mean, I've spoken with some serious power players, but this guy's talking in front of 10, 20,000 people at a clip. He's definitely a firecracker. He graduated from the University of Pittsburgh. He's been in the ACN business for the past 20 years. The position of Senior Vice President. He has co-founded a Wealth Institute. He's a keynote speaker at the ACN Convention every 90 days for the past 18 years. That's pretty impressive. So I don't think he has time to eat, obviously, if you look at his boily figure there. He speaks in front of crowds of tens of 20,000s of people. And he's featured in issues of Success from Home Magazine, and twice a judge on the Celebrity Apprentice. And he's helping people build passive wealth and residual income. And I'm excited to have you on the show, Patrick. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Anyway, appreciate the opportunity to be on. And Matt, I've been a fan of yours and followed you, and obviously Lee, and getting an opportunity to be on here has been a highlight of my week. So excited to be able to share some value.
We don't really hear that a lot, Lee, do we?
I think everybody's going to be very interested to hear about your background and a little bit about your speaking abilities. We're going to really get into it tonight. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. Guys, we'll be right back after these brief messages.
Guys, this week we've got Patrick Mazer stopping by, and I got to tell you, this guy is unbelievable. He's got 20 years in helping people build residual income all over the world. So stop by, listen in, and learn. Let's go.
Hey guys, my name is Patrick Mazer, and for the last 20 years I've been an entrepreneur, helping people around the world, people just like you, make residual income and passive income. And I'm pumped up to be on Matt's show. He's an incredible leader. I'm looking forward to our high-level interview. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you got something to write on and to write with. There's going to be some great information shared between the two of us.
All right, guys, and we're back. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Patrick, a couple things. Obviously, Lee and I have a couple questions we want to ask you. And hopefully we'll get some interaction tonight from the people that are watching. As far as I'm concerned, you're a rock star in the industry as far as being an entrepreneur. How'd you start off becoming an entrepreneur? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, that's easy. I watched my father work for 33 years for one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And after 33 years of carrying the company flag and being the yes guy and bleeding the company colors, they called him up one day and said, "Hey, we got a couple new guys, and with all your experience and all your knowledge, we would love for you to coach and mentor them." And my father, and that was an honor, to be able to take that wisdom of 33 years and give it to these new guys. And 2 weeks later, those new guys were his replacements. So, when you see that as a son and watching somebody have to go recreate themselves deep into their 50s, it definitely leaves a mark on your outlook on corporate America. So I figured, if I work for me, I can't get fired. I can't get downsized, right? I can't get laid off. But the old saying, Matt, we don't want to work 9 to 5 for a job so we can work 24 hours a day for ourselves. So.
True.
Very true.
I mean, Lee, you're still in the office right now.
It's been a long day today.
Well, Lee's only working half days these days, 12 hours.
Seriously, absolutely.
You call yourself, or you really refer to yourself as a wealth coach. Can you tell everybody how you would define that and what that really means?
You know what, Lee, first of which, I think a lot of us have gotten a bad education. You know what I mean? We were brought up in a country that, you know, prides itself on a tax system that's designed for business owners. Yet, you know, 13,000 hours, kindergarten to 12th grade. When did they teach you the tax system? Now, I know what a dangling participle is, but I don't think that matters to the mortgage company when I apply for a loan. No. So I just really feel that, you know, we've gotten a really bad start in life because they haven't taken the time to really explain wealth-based principles, business ownership, the beauty of living in America. Why are people swimming here, squeezing through fences to get here? Because of the opportunities that it presents itself. Yet it's not something that 90% of our society takes advantage of. And I really believe it's education.
I want to ask a quick question. Do you believe that the way the system is set up, it's set up for people to be equipped to go out and get a job and work for a company or be an entrepreneur?
Well, if you think about the universities, you know, Carnegie, Mellon, I mean, who are the founders of those educational systems? You know, these are people that were mass producing things and needed people to come at the bell and leave at the bell, and, you know, all the different things that really designed the educational system that's antiquated. I mean, that's probably 50 years old now. And look, I mean, today, does an education matter to get a job at Google? No.
No.
Amazon. I mean, so some of the top companies in the world right now are saying, you know, if you have a piece of paper, great. If you don't, great. Now, obviously, if you want to be in Lee's position, I want you to have a good education. You know, if I walk into the medical examiner, I want to see something on the wall outside of a YouTube video. So I think, you know, education for an entrepreneur is probably not there. And I think that's changing.
So we want to drill down a little bit and talk about, let's say, new business comes to see, and they need guidance. Maybe they're not, like you say, financially literate. They don't really understand how to get the transaction through. It's not really appropriate to hire a lawyer hourly in a case like that. Let's be honest. I may not have value there. Talk to me about what kind of things you're going to suggest, how that's going to work, and how you're going to give value to the business owner, because I think it's a fascinating space.
Yeah, you know, in what I'm experiencing, Lee, is, you know, 2019, you know, advice in 2021 has changed. Totally. And you know what I mean, with the advent of us being able to do things online, a virtual assistant outside of the United States, I think there's a lot of things that people spend money on that probably haven't stood back and took a look at, you know, all the different situations that can allow them to be lean and mean. And I think that's the number one thing in business is, you know, have a lot of money saved, because we all know you're going to need it. You know, what it's like building a house, whatever number they give you, add 20% to it. And whatever day they're going to tell you it's done, add 25% to that too. So I just think it's more pointing out a lot of waste more than anything. And then look, I mean, you know, having that owner realize that the last thing to show up in business is money. Yeah. Everything else is going to show up before the money. So if you're getting into business thinking you're going to take a vacation and buy a Cadillac, that's going to take about 20 years.
And you've done these people, you can look deals and say, hey, looked at this, and this, and you really need to go, and you may outsource, or you might cut here. There's tremendous value in that.
And you know, I think sometimes people try or look to get into business because they want to follow their passion instead of following the money. Yeah. You know, my passion is spending time with my family and jet skiing, and there's no money in either one of those. So I got to make a bunch of money so I can go do the things I love to do.
Absolutely.
Patrick, what would you think one of the biggest lessons is that you've learned so far in 20 years being in business?
Get a mentor. You know, you know, I had somebody say to me one time, he said, you know, you pick a book up, somebody spent 5 years of their life writing this book, and you can give it one day and take 5 years of their life. So when I look at mentors can help you jump ahead of the curve. You know, they can shave years off your life when it comes to learning what to do. I mean, Matt, when you think about advice you could give somebody that took you, you know, years to acquire, and you could, you know, in literally 2 or 3 sentences save them, you know, tens of thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands. So I think mentorship, and I think mentorship specifically to the vertical you're in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't just believe in, you know, blanket mentorship, like, hey, I'll get fatherly advice from this person, maybe financial advice from that person, system advice from this person. So, I don't look at one person going to give me everything I'm needing. I'm fine with sort of subbing that out, if you will, and going to the ones that are an expert in their field.
Right.
As I think a little bit about what you do, I'm imagining that you probably see business owners who make the same mistakes over and over again, right? Maybe because they didn't have education, financial literacy, or they never had a business before, right? So, what are some common pitfalls that you see regularly so that people don't have to end up coming to see somebody like me to dig them out of a difficult set of circumstances, whether by their own doing or market forces or forces beyond control, right?
I like franchises. I like systems. Look, does McDonald's have the best burger? Probably not. Do they have the most success in their space? 100%. They'll tell you within $1,000 how much you'll make a month. I mean, think about the accuracy of that. Hey, where do I put the register? Where do I buy the napkins? All those things that take time, effort, and energy to figure out. A franchise can come in. So a lot of the businesses that I recommend are plug and play, to whatever level financially you can afford to get into the game. McDonald's obviously is a big number to get in.
There's certainty there.
It 100% predictability. And that's what we're looking for in business, because, it's hard enough to let go of what you're doing to do something new and to go in there with the uncertainty. Most businesses fail, 90% of them 5 years into it won't make it. And it's really just because a system, they don't have something that they can replicate or follow or know the predictability in what they're doing.
I like that. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you got into speaking, and if that's part of your passion? I'm imagining it probably is.
Yeah, I realized at a young age that the highest paid people in the world are communicators. They run companies. They run religion, they run the military. The CEO of Verizon is not climbing up any poles or activating any phones. He's giving mission statements. He's talking about where they're going. He's creating a vision for people to keep their money in their company and move things forward. So, that was really something I noticed early on, is become a great speaker. And, as you become a great speaker, you can get paid a lot of money because you're a communicator. So that's really where it started at. And, over the years just perfected my craft. And I study speakers, I watch speakers, pastors, others. I mean, some of the best in the world are religion. You think of, some of the ones, and I know we all know a handful that we could say, yeah, they're really good speakers.
That's cool.
Yeah, communicators. And, and I think, one of the exciting things about that is, look at engineers or people that technically don't have that skill set, but imagine if one did, that could communicate in engineering or communicate in accounting. I mean, they're very, very strong because, there's not a lot of competition in their field when it comes to communicating.
So you've been speaking a long time, and it sounds like you still feel like you're craft and learning how to be the best speaker out there. Speaking can be very humbling if you don't do it on a regular basis.
Well, I think the biggest fear is always that public speaking. They say you would rather, drown and burn before giving the eulogy at somebody's, as someone's funeral. So, that's just a fear that we all have, somewhere along the lines. We didn't have it as a kid. I think growing up, something, triggered all of us. But I think one of the, great things is the connecting with people and having people say, man, you were talking to me, or, what you said really, resonated with me, or you touched me in the story you gave. So again, I just find so much that I get from it. And, the biggest room in my house is the room for improvement. So, you know what I mean? It's not, never ending, a never ending polish, if you will, to continue to be better at whatever we choose to do.
A valuable skill set. Very valuable.
So Patrick, let me ask this question. How did you pivot, or how did you move during the pandemic?
Well, it's a great question. So my business, a lot of it was event business, a lot of, communicating throughout the country, smaller events, bringing them into big events. Prior to the pandemic, we had rented the arena in Charlotte where the Hornets play. So, that was 15, 20,000, and they literally held us till the end to let us out of that. You know what I mean? Because there was so much uncertainty and we didn't know what was going on. So hotels and other contracts that we had, you know, they weren't letting us go on any of that stuff right away. It wasn't until it became very clear that it was very unhealthy for any of us to get together in large groups. So what did we do? You know, we moved to Zoom, and what was, you know, an absolute horrible situation for us turned into the greatest gift that I've ever been given in business, you know, and that was the ability for us to be able to be everywhere without being inconvenienced, you know, planes, cars, things like that. So everybody went online. I think a normal situation was over 5 years, we would all found the online world. I'm sure, you know, Lee, you probably found it in your practice. You know, the face-to-face wasn't needed like it was in the past. You can do the same thing more efficiently, and you know, your clientele base grew outside of your zip code. Well, the same thing happened for us. Is that it was really a gift, and one that I am so grateful for. But I think about Grubhub. You know, when Grubhub started, you know, they initially went out talking to restaurant owners about software, and, you know, trying to find the pain point in the restaurant business, and come to find out every restaurant owner said it was delivery. And so they went from, hey, we want to sell you software, to starting a delivery company that we know today is a household name. So it's one of those, you know what I mean? Sometimes negatives turn into positives.
That's amazing. You know, I would say personally for myself, for my business, we had about a 2.5 month hiccup. And, you know, we had a couple people get sick. We had a buyer pass away from this horrible thing. And, you know, there was a lot of questions of what you could do, what you can't do. So I'm happy to see that there is some type of new normalcy. I don't think we're ever really going to go back to normal. You just stated that Zoom has really opened up a lot for you. And I know for myself, for my company, we've been completely virtual for years.
Right.
So we didn't really have too much of a transfer or skip a beat with that. But it was terrifying for people that were like, I can't meet you face to face. And I'm like, it's okay. My company's virtual. We can do, you know, private Zooms. We could do FaceTime. We could do StreamYards. We could do whatever it was, like, you know, to help people out, you know, through this pandemic. We had something that was supposed to be planned ourselves. And they wouldn't let me out until the end as well, when they realized that, you know, the world wasn't going to be opening up anytime soon. So I put all my efforts into, you know, building an online, you know, education series to educate people. So I kind of like the fact of being able to, you know, be in my home office and be able to help people all over the United States. But I do miss the interaction, and I am working on something right now that's going to hopefully come out in the next couple of months for an event. So, Patrick, I agree with you 150%. Lee, what do you think? How did it affect your business?
Well, you know, it's slow. I mean, there was a transition. They moved a lot of the hearings to telephonic and some are Zoom. There was a lot of inconsistency in how they did it, but, you know, a year and a few months into this, people are getting more comfortable. I think you made an excellent point. For me, you know, as a practicing attorney who has a presence all over the state, it's been much easier to see people from Hoboken to Cape May. And the fact that I'm based in South Jersey near Philadelphia isn't really as important anymore. So the satellite offices that my two staff attorneys would hop in their car and schlep up to Tom's River or head down, you know, the turnpike, they don't have to do that anymore and get home late to see their families. And as the business owner and the paternalistic guy I am, that makes me happy. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in terms of what courts are going to require that people, you know, show their face, and what judges want the lawyer and the litigants there. So we're working it out. But from a business point of view, it's a lot easier to conduct hearings sitting in the office. Let me tell you.
You know, I think what I hear from you, Lee, also is some of those consultations. You know what I mean? Things that, you know, maybe didn't even bear fruit, but you still had to be there, and, you know, you still had to spend the time. Now travel time's eliminated, preparation time, all those things that would have taken gone. So I think there'll be a hybrid. I think we've all would have came here in 5 years.
I agree with it.
It just took 5 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
It was, you know what I mean? They just compressed the time that we would all eventually came here based on necessity.
Yeah, it would have been kicking and screaming, but this event forced it. It accelerated, is what it did.
Without a doubt. And interestingly enough, I was in Colombia, South America, prior to the pandemic, and I was doing events, right? And people like that were in Cartagena wouldn't go to Barranquilla, which is like a neighboring town, but they all did Zooms. So they were already doing Zoom, and everybody had the headsets, and you know what I mean? They all look like professional gamers and stuff. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? This is like 2018, you know? And I was like, man, this is great. But again, you know, what I think is great doesn't mean the next guy does. And how do you download the app, and where's the website at? And I mean, just all of us think about those original Zooms. I mean, how many of us are like, dude, what's behind you? Like, what's going on at your house? I think your wife's beating the kids. Like, we had all this stuff that we didn't even know to think about as far as etiquette goes, even on Zoom.
And just like you guys had difficult conversations with some of those events, I had 2 landlords. I had 2 satellite offices with leases, and those are tough conversations. But eventually, as I tried to explain to them, things were changing. I mean, you feel badly, but the business models change. If you have a 10,000 square foot building with 15 tenants and there are satellite offices, that business model is not working anymore for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know, look, I think real estate's going through its own, you know, evolution. And, you know, I think there's going to be some exciting innovations out of it. You know, the Uber of real estate, you know what I mean? The timeshare type situation. Hey, I only need a day. Great. Go ahead and book it on the app. Here's your boardroom. And, you know, the landlord will make more. Like Airbnb makes more money than a normal person renting their property, because you can, you know, get more money per day. So I think there'll be some really great things that'll come out of this, not just from my business, but a lot of other people's. We're innovative people, you know, and I think there'll be some exciting changes that'll come due to as long as look, the only consistent is change. So embrace it. That's why kids are so good with it, and older people have such a hard time with it because we like it the way it is.
I think that in the real estate market, big point too, there's so much emphasis now on what's going on the residential side, because it's exciting and people are, you know, the market conditions are changing. But on the commercial side, that's really where a lot of the changes are. People aren't going to downtown and having lunch and visiting the dry cleaners. So that's real. There's not a lot of discussion of that, even though that's really going to be significantly changing. So, and an unknown.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think people are hungry to get back to normal when that day does come. Dinners, you know, hey, I'd love to see my dry cleaners. You know what I mean? So I think there'll be almost a renaissance in a lot of those respects, you know, to say, you know, good to see you, and, you know, boy, been a while. So I'm excited about those days coming. But I think to your point, Lee, you know, there's going to be some definite changes. And I think back to my initial point, you know, which started the conversation, lean and mean. Yeah. Like, I think, you know what I mean? Bigger isn't better. You know, hey, having 20 lawyers over 3, sometimes you don't make as much with 20 as you do with 3. You know, sometimes the perception in business is bigger is better, and sometimes that's not always the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Patrick, let me answer your question. You're helping people obviously all over the world, not here only just in you know, in the state, you know, in the United States. You're talking about, you know, helping people build, you know, residual income. Talk a little bit about what you're doing and how you're helping people, because I find it intriguing. Some people don't like it. I get it. I get the concept of it. So explain to people really what your core business is.
Yeah, so I'm an independent rep for a company called ACN, and what ACN does is provide services to consumers globally. And when I say services, we market things like mobile or cell phone service, or high-speed internet, or cable television. And we work with major companies around the world, companies that people would all know by name. And so they've been in business for 28 years. I stumbled upon them 20 years ago. Being an entrepreneur, you know, what do? You take every meeting. And I still, even today, I mean, Matt, you and I do this, right? Matt texts me, jump on a meeting. I take every meeting. Why? Because
but hold on, but what that's a funny story because we're not going to go into it. But the fact that the owner of the company was like, dude, this guy, he's all over the place. Nobody can nail this guy down. And I said, who are you talking about? He said, Patrick Mazer. I'm like, I know him. And he goes, what do you mean you know him? I'm like, I know him. He goes, know him how? I'm like, I have his cell phone number. He said, I call bullshit. I said, okay, fine. Let me text him. I said, yo, can you get on a call? He texts us back. Yeah, I can. He goes, dude, I had somebody, what did he say, from London or Europe or something like that, try to set up a call. And like, an hour later, we're on a call together. But go ahead.
That way, and so, having said that, funny, came from you. So of course, hey, what can I do to help? And, I know who you are and what you do for people. So that was an easy meeting for me to jump into. But I think, the point that I'm making is 20 years ago, I was, to Lee's question early on, I was the entrepreneur trying to create systems, trying to figure scalability, taking on the overhead, taking the risk on, running my business from a credit card. I mean, look, banks don't lend money to people that need it. Let me tell you that right now. People, I'll go to the bank. Well, let me tell you something. The bank don't lend money to anybody that needs money. If you don't need any money, a bank will line up to give it to you. If you need money, go to the end of the line. So when this came along, it was like, checked a couple boxes. One, business of my own. Okay, I'm into that. Two, system that I can plug into. I don't have to recreate the wheel when it comes to what they were doing. And three, residual income. Now, I don't know if I had a bad teacher or I slept under a rock, but I had never heard of residual income, like never even heard it. And I'm sitting in a presentation. They were like, yeah, every time somebody pays their bill, you get paid. Well, my mom's going to pay her bill all her life. The one thing I know about my mom is she works to pay bills. So if I can get paid on something they're going to pay forever, how's that a bad thing? And so that's where I started, and then, build a customer base over the years that's deep into 100,000 plus that I get a little piece of every month, and, willable, sellable business. But I think the point that I'm making is they gave me what I needed, mentorship, sort of what we started out with, a track to run on. You know what I mean? Look, I'm sure other people have made lots of money on their own, but, I think it's a difficult road to hoe. I think if you can follow the footsteps of other people, you're going to get to where they are. And that was the number one thing for me, especially, if you don't have capital. I meet people every day. Look, it's easy to make $1 million in America if you have $1 million. You know what I mean? It's easy to make 10 million if you got 5 million. What's hard to go 0 to $1 million? That's the, 0 to $1 million is the challenge. The first million's the hardest. So they gave me everything I needed. I'm eternally grateful, and I work out of gratitude now. Just because I see myself in other people. I see myself graduating from the same schools I did, getting the same friends and family advice that we've all gotten. Go get a good job, right? Work for a big company. I mean, we've all been programmed to do the same things, yet, when we look at the end of people's lives, we realize that that plan doesn't work for most people.
So do you think people that you're meeting now or maybe getting reintroduced to are saying, and I'm going off on a limb here, Patrick, I didn't think you were going to amount to anything, or, you were a goofball in school, but, you drive, a beautiful car, you have all these different places where you live, and money doesn't seem to be an option. Are you ever running into people from your past that are blown away?
I think, yeah, because I probably wasn't the best student. You know what I mean? Like if you would have looked, and I think a lot of times C students employ the A students, the old saying. You know what I mean? So I didn't go down the normal path most people did from a young age. I was always a little out there. And I think that's usually the ones that do a little something with their life. But, I think there's probably some shock, for some people, and, and others, hey, we knew you could because you were, persistent. The one quality any successful person I've ever met, you included in that, and Lee, is persistence. How do you win? You just keep showing up. I mean, that's the part where, most people don't understand is as long as you do it long enough, you go from an amateur to an expert. You just got to stick in it long enough to learn it all you need to learn. And I went all in on one thing. I tell people I probably missed a lot of opportunities over the years because I was tunnel visioned, meaning they brought me other things that I probably could have done really well at and probably could have made money at, but I was so focused on one thing that I said no to other opportunities along the way. until I was at a position where I could now, hey, I'm open to new things, and I got capital and things that I can bring to the table I couldn't before.
Hold on one sec. We're going to be right back right after this message. I was so enthralled with this conversation tonight, Lee. I didn't do any of our commercials. Hold on.
I was waiting.
Hold on one sec, guys.
His energy, you can tell he's real. There's no BS talk.
Listening to Matthew Marinoff for a good amount of time, like a light bulb went off. I was like, wait a minute, I've got to learn more about that short sale process.
What is one thing that really stuck out in your mind that you learned that you may not have known prior to coming today?
Everything.
It's cool to actually see people's body language change throughout the course of the day. Their arms were crossed, now they're wide open, they're laughing.
All right, guys, we're back. So I got to run into this because I think this is funny. It's a fun fact, and Patrick, you and I have had multiple conversations, and please tell me that half of this is true. Once you graduated high school, you went out and you sold T-shirts all over the United States following the Olympic torch run from the U.S. Summer Olympics from Los Angeles, California to Atlanta, Georgia, 980 cities, 28,000 miles in 90 days.
Yeah, in 1996, I was in 42 states twice in the same year. So I did the Olympic torch run, 980 cities, 28,000 miles, Coca-Cola, BMW, sold all their products the whole way till the Olympic Games. Day 9, bomb goes off. Things change. I'm selling stuff at the Olympics, and I meet some guys that go, "Hey, are you going to do political stuff?" And watching you tell me things too. You never know who's listening. I said, "What do you mean political stuff?" They said, "Oh yeah, presidential campaign, man. That's money in there." What? People buy buttons and buttons? Who buy buttons? Everybody does, really. So I go and buy about a couple $1,000s worth of buttons. I'll never forget it. They handed this cooler, like a fishing cooler, filled full of buttons. And I'm handing this guy a bunch of money. And you know what I'm thinking to myself, Lee, Matt, I just lost a bunch of money. What am I going to do with these buttons? So I go down to Wheeling, West Virginia, Bill Clinton's reelection, 1996, right? Dole Kemp, right? The whole 9 yards. Nobody buys anything. Clinton speaks, they come out, everybody buys everything. I made $1,200 that day selling buttons. And so then I did every political rally till the election in 1996 for the re-election where Bill Clinton. But if I was still in that game for the Trump years, forget it. I would have been selling hate him and love him. Which one do you want? You want the hate him shirt? I got the hate, who does it? Love him? Who does it? And because they're political figures, you don't have to have copyrights. So when the Olympic stuff, you had to buy all license, Halo, everything had to be hologram. I mean, there's police on that stuff. Mm-hmm. Political figures, anybody can put anything on a button.
That's funny.
Think about the Trump face mask. I mean, you had 10,000 people needed a face mask. I mean, I would have destroyed it. And I'm sure a lot of the guys that I was back then with probably still doing it. Some people never quit what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I just moved on to other things.
You're probably still working off those points, hotel and mile points.
Lee, back then it was sleeping in the car. You know what I'm saying? It was real lean those days. But I'll tell you what, I rented a van. I put 28,000 miles on a van in 3 months and took it back to the Enterprise. They were like, "What? Did you go to Panama?" Like, where did you? That's why Hertz is no longer in business, because of people like me.
First first got hurt by
Yeah, they sure did. Yeah, here's your keys back. It's 20, 5 oil change later that I missed.
You always remember stories when you started. You never forget them. Yeah.
Do you remember the first day when you were introduced to this, into ACN?
Oh yeah, for sure. I knew that day I was going to do it. I didn't do it that day, but I knew I was going to do it. I didn't sign up that day, but I knew I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And I just knew this is what I was going to do. And because, look, I think experience is a great teacher. And, why is it that immigrants come to America and are 4 times more likely to be a millionaire than people that grew up here? Because they have something to compare it to. You know what I mean? Like, people think business ownership's glamorous because they don't own one. People go, Matt, oh, you own your own business. Lee, oh my, man, I wish, man, boy, you must be, they're like, you have no idea. You have no idea what it takes. You have no idea sleeping with the problems, waking up with the problems. And so, I think for me, I came to a point in my life where when I saw what they were offering, I had such a point of reference that I said, this is great. This is everything that I'm looking for. And things that I didn't know I was looking for, like book reading and speaking and things that I didn't even think about, until later in life, that I realized, like, wow, this was actually, just a blessing for my family.
So if somebody wants to reach out to you directly, this number that's coming across the bottom of the screen and this email address, they can reach out to you. Even if they want to have a conversation with you, just to figure out, like, hey, did you really, do, 98,000 cities and 28,000 miles in a van or whatever it is, just to get an idea of, like, what makes this guy tick? Because, for me, like, people reached out to me that were like, dude, you're actually having Patrick on your show? Yeah. Dude, do you realize, like, one of the persons said to me, he's a whale. Whale. He's a goat. And I'm like, you're Patrick. And that's how you come across. And I love the fact that you're so real. I know who you are. Lee knows who you are. Lee's like a bookworm. He researches everybody, which is fine. Like, if shit's gonna go down, I call Lee because Lee's an attorney.
Keep us out of the weeds, Lee. Keep us out of the weeds.
Keep us out of the weeds. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, obviously they can contact you at 267-971-2871, or they can email you directly, which is your name, Patrick Mazer, @gmail.com. And then if they want, they can follow you on Facebook. They can catch you on Instagram, and you're also on Twitter. And I think we're going to have to revise. You say that you're a wealth coach, but you're so much more than a wealth coach, because having the conversations that I've had with you off camera, and obviously Lee and I had with you before we got on, you can tell you're a force to be reckoned with. But most importantly, you can tell, like, you actually care. And I don't think there's a lot of people in your industry that actually care about the person. Can you tell us a little bit about the fact that you actually do care and you don't look at people as a dollar sign?
A couple things. As you study the super successful, if you want to make $1 billion, help 1 billion people. I think you eventually evolve to those levels of saying, once you take the focus off yourself and you put it on other people, that's where real wealth lives. That's if you look at people that are making massive amounts of impact in our country and in the world. That's all they're doing. They're fixing a problem. They're making things better. They're creating, something that can allow our lives to be a little better than it was before we met those people. So I think that took me time. I think we're selfish by nature, and I think that takes time to sort of purge that out of yourself. At least it did for me. And that took a long time for that to happen. But, look, I remember when I first heard you speak on Clubhouse, Matt, obviously you're a great speaker. You got great content. You deliver a solid message. You're a solution-oriented guy. And I hit you, and Instagram was like, why don't we know each other? right? Why aren't we doing something together? Just because, look, I like when I hear people like yourself and Lee that are value add people. You know, look, you're doing this show today, and you know this isn't the first show you've done, and you've done many shows and brought many people together, me included as one. And that's, you know, that's value you're giving to people where they don't have to go look for the information. You're laying it at their feet. You know, you're giving them people that can provide value in whatever vertical they're in.
When the pandemic first hit, everybody panicked, and I looked at it as, hey, I'm going to reinvent. I'm going to make my company stronger. I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off. I'm going to see a lot of people out there that aren't going to want to see me succeed, get through it. I've come out the other end a hell of a lot stronger person than I was even before when it started. I've got more involved in the marketing side of it, the planning side of it. I was doing shows 5 days a week. Sometimes I was doing Tuesdays and Thursdays nights. I was burning myself out. And then I figured, you know what? Once we started to pick up and things are getting crazy again, I scale back, offer once a week, actually hire somebody who helps me not produce, but puts the guests on the show. And I'm getting a lot of great feedback from her. Hold on one sec, guys. We'll be right back after this message.
Hi there. I'm Lee Perlman. I'm a consumer bankruptcy attorney. I've been helping people get a financial fresh start since 1994. You can reach me at newjerseybankruptcy.com or 856-751-4224.
No, we just want to try to help people, individuals, no matter what it is, get them from point A to point Z. Because it's funny, everybody's always point A to point B, but what about the rest of the alphabet? You know, everybody has a purpose. I have a purpose. Lee has a purpose. Patrick has a purpose. Everybody has a purpose, and I think that, you know, having you on, I'm hoping it at least inspires one person to reach out to you that's going through a really hard time right now. Look, the real estate industry is so out of control right now. People are overpaying for properties. They're overextending themselves. They're literally liquidating their 401k. They're draining their savings to buy something that they probably shouldn't be buying. Very similar to 2005. So we're going to see a lot of that happen. So there's people right now that need to subsidize their income. And I think, Patrick, what you're doing, I think people should reach out to you and talk to you, at least have a conversation and find out a little bit more about what you do and what you offer. And guys, I'm not getting paid to say this. I'm having Patrick on because I believe in what he's doing. And I tell people, if you see somebody of interest or you feel that somebody should come on and has a story, we changed the format because it's about helping people. And I always say put people before profit. And people laughed when I kept saying it, but now people aren't laughing because they're seeing it. Lee offers a service that, you know, people are in trouble. Lee, if you meet with somebody and they're in trouble and they may or may not file bankruptcy, why are you not like every other bankruptcy attorney? And incidentally, we did have lunch 2 weeks ago, and you pointed out and said, hey, that guy is a bankruptcy attorney, or he's an attorney, and he takes everybody. Why do you not take everybody and put everybody in a bankruptcy?
It's just, you know, certain people aren't suited to be in bankruptcy. It's not a solution for everybody. Just like some surgeons don't operate in every case, sometimes physical therapy is appropriate. So I try to look at all kinds of different solutions. I don't charge when I talk to people on the business side or the financial side. People come back and talk to me, and I really try to give people other approaches so they can figure out the best solution. But there's nothing worse than rushing into somebody who doesn't belong in bankruptcy. It's very hard to get out. People are rushed in without consequences, and it can be a mess. And it's hard to dig out. I get called in a lot on cases where people file bankruptcy and they don't belong in bankruptcy. And it's just like somebody who's stitched up and you have to, go back and operate again. It's not pretty.
Patrick, do you feel that there are people out there that are made for the business that you're in and made to go the distance? And do you feel that there are people out there that are not made for your type of business?
You know, great question. I just got done reading the book, The Talent Code, and excellent book. And he basically, as an author does, and you know, Lee appreciates this probably more than most, is they make a case. And you know, how do you make a case? You know, you bring the evidence, you show all kinds of studies, you know, interview people that are extremely successful, and everything comes down to a mindset. So in there, they have a particular case where they were handing out instruments to children in school. And the only question they asked the child before they handed them an instrument was, will you play this during the school year? Will you play this while you're in school, meaning K through 12, or will you play this your whole life? The way they answered the question determined how well they play the instrument. The ones that said, I'm gonna play it for life, were the very best. The ones that said, hey, I'm gonna play it for this school, you know, class, were very bad. And the ones that say, I'll play it, you know, for the school year, K to 12, were okay. But that was the only question they asked. So I believe you're made for whatever you want to be made for. And in the talent code, they basically lay out example of people, the Michael Jordans and others that had no talent, got cut from his high school basketball team. If he had talent, he would have sat on the bench. You know what I mean? He would have said, hey, this kid's no good, good enough to sit on the bench. So I really believe it's that internal conversation. You know, it's what do you want? And what are you willing to do to go get it? Because part of the doing something new, you have to go through the awkwardness of doing something new. Why do people at their deathbed say, oh man, I wish I would have done, right? They sit there and they lie because fear has left them. When you're staring at, you know, the end of your life, you're no longer concerned what the neighbors think, what your cousin thinks, what your mom thinks, what your brother thinks. All that stuff goes out the door. And so, you know, that's why few people are willing to go try something or do something, because you're bad before you're good. I mean, look, I mean, all of us know that, you know, why don't we want to play games with our kids? Because we know they're going to score us. We know that once they give us that remote control, it's over before we even push the first button, because they practice so many times anticipating what's about to happen. And we're just starting off, and we're very bad when we start.
I don't want this interview to end, so we're gonna extend it a couple of minutes, if that's okay with both of you guys.
Absolutely.
Lee, as long as you don't bill us, buddy. We know how.
No bill.
Excellent. Me and Matt are hanging out. Lee's the only one that's, you know, he's got things to do and places to go.
He's got the ticker rolling over there in the office. He's got those extra hours. You know, it's funny that you talk about the struggle, and I know we've all seen it on Facebook and social media. It's the iceberg, and they see the success above the water, but nobody sees the struggle to get to that point to see the success. I have on my wall where it shows try to succeed, fail, and then it's like fail, and then it's success. My kids say, Dad, you always are working, you're always creating, you're always looking for a way to help people, but you curse a lot, you seem frustrated a lot. I said, that's just who I am. And some people like it, some people don't. But at the end of the day, I like to make a difference for people. And I'm always trying to jam a square peg into a round hole, square, round, because I like to make a difference. And I think, Patrick, in your industry, I think people look at it wrong. I don't even know if we can use the word multi-level marketing or not. But I'm going to tell you this, and this is what I've seen over the last couple of years. The guys that come out your house and they fix the pole, the electric, the cable, the gas, or a guy delivers from a truck, or he's putting material on the roof and they're pounding it in with the nails. And he works there. And then that guy has another couple of guys that work for him. And then there's a supervisor. And then there's whatever it is. So there's multi-levels. So when someone says to me multi-level marketing, I don't look at it as a bad thing. I think it has such a horrible stigma. And Patrick, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I think because the people that got into multi-level marketing or any type of residual income were instructed or not properly trained to be conditioned to say it's not a horrible, it's almost like taboo. Like, oh my God, multi-level marketing. I don't care where you work or what company you work for, and I can name a million different companies. It's multi-level marketing. You're getting a paycheck and you're working from someone else, and someone else working from someone else, and so on and so on. But it's just structured. And you nailed it when you said, we could work 8-hour day or we could work 24 hours a day. I'd rather be for a company like myself, like you said in the beginning, where you don't have to worry about getting fired because you're your own boss.
True.
So do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, look, I think there's a great awakening. I think, ignorance is no longer at the level it was before. And I think sometimes, when I was in college and, I Thursday night would go to the library because I know that my fraternity was going to have a great party. And so what do you think my fraternity brothers said when I was walking out of the university, out of the fraternity house with my books in my hand? Where are you going? Where are you going? Pat, it's Thirsty Thursday. Memories are forever. Grades are temporary. Now, why did they give me such a hard time? Why were they negative on what I was doing? Because when somebody goes out and does the right thing, it makes you reflect on what you're doing. And so I think sometimes, in our industry, people get excited. They start telling people, oh, I'm going to be rich, or I'm going to go do this. And, all of a sudden they start throwing stones at them because it's like, if you go and actually do it, that means I have to go do something. And I'm not willing to go do something because I don't want to go through the awkwardness of doing something new. So I think it's misunderstood. I think today's a different world. I think today, one thing that I'm really giggling inside about is the world got to work from home and now they got to go back to work.
100%.
And you know what? I get people calling me every day going, I like that. What's that work from home thing you're doing? I've been working from home for 8 months and now I had to go back in the office and the traffic and the Starbucks and the parking and the drama and the politics. And I'd rather be home. I'd rather be able to set my own schedule and be productive and not have to punch a clock to do it.
Yeah.
Both are making a very similar point in a different way. Matt's talking about the people on Facebook and people just zeroing in on the success, but not seeing the hard work. You're talking about the talent pool and but what I'm saying is, and my belief, and the more I work on my own, 28 years on my own, is people really are afraid to have uncomfortableness. They're afraid of the hard work. They're afraid they're going to be outside their comfort zone. And I see that in my practice. When I began on my own, I worked as a lawyer and a waiter for the first 6 months of my practice.
Yeah.
Now I have a staff of 10 and I'm among the top 10, and I'm not bragging, I'm among the top 10 filers in New Jersey. But I have a stack, and I don't think I've ever shared this with Matt on any of the shows. I have a stack still that I saved of rejection letters from some of the top large firms in Philadelphia, because I thought at the time I wanted to work for a big, tall building law firm, and not getting accepted as an associate to any of those firms was the best decision ever.
Motivator.
The point is, there was a lot of uncomfortableness then. And now, after a lot of hard work and a fair amount of luck and putting, learning my craft, and it's taken a long time, and I take the position I learn every day, that uncomfortableness has helped make me a better lawyer, entrepreneur, and business person. And tonight, I think you showed a lot of people in our audience some of the things that you're doing, how you're helping businesses. You talked about certainty with respect to franchises. There's some real kernels of knowledge there. So Matt and I really thank you tonight. I think it's been a great show.
I couldn't wait to get on here, Lee. I mean, you guys have followed and watched, and your big value add, and I think you're being true with that 6 months as a waiter. Look, my first year in direct sales and network marketing, ACN, people used to say, "How much money are you making?" You know what I used to tell them? You wouldn't believe me if I told you. And you know why I said that? Because you wouldn't believe I would work this hard for this little.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't believe it. You would say, you're an absolute maniac to work this hard for crumbs. But what I looked at is just like you going to law school. It's like, you got to put the effort in before you get the paper, before you can go make the money. And I think we've been conditioned to work, paycheck, work, paycheck, work, paycheck. And you're almost like a caged animal, where now when they let you out into the wild, because they're not handing you the food, there's a lot of skinny cats out there. You know what I mean? Whereas with us, we had to go out and, make it happen. And, I feel very, look, my father losing his career was an absolute blessing because I wouldn't go that route. And even when my friends were getting jobs and getting their nice little cars and buying their first starter homes, I was living out of a car basically. I was sleeping on a couch at someone's house. I was fine with that. I accepted that's what you had to do. And I was fully aware that, the road to success leads right through the dump.
But his experience made an impression on you, and it's turned you into the entrepreneur you are today.
100%.
Did you say the road to success leads right through the dump?
Yeah, just don't park there. We're all going to go through it. You know what I mean? Like, look, it's 100%. Look, you guys know, firsthand. It is. Think, Lee, some of the things you did early on and the clients you took and the things you were willing to do, or Matt, how many miles did you drive and how many rejections did you have until it became comfortable to you, to the point where just like, this is normal.
You know what's funny? I don't want to cut you off, but what's funny is that on social media, you could be anybody you want.
Oh, forget about it.
And I just found out, somebody reached out to me the other day and says, "Bro, message me, bro. Gotta ask you a question. When are you free?" I said, "I'll be off in a couple of minutes." "All right, I'm free." Calls me. He goes, "Yo, someone just said that they taught you everything you know." That's the fourth person that's claimed to say, that they've taught me everything I know. So, at this point, do I just say that I'm a Elvis Presley love child? Like, to me, that cracks me up. And I told my wife, and my wife says to me, "Oh, you can't let that be. You have to say something." And I laughed and I said, I think it's more entertaining than anything else. If you got to ride off my coattails, because at one point we either worked together or we worked on a couple of transactions together, and you feel big about yourself that you can actually throw that out on social media, God bless you. Because I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody, face-to-face, live on Facebook or on the stage, and I'll smoke them. So I just think it's funny that on social media you can be anything you want. And then a lot of people from my past that have reached out to me that literally peaked in high school. And I've had a couple of people reach out to me and say, "Yo, I heard about you on social media. I need some help." One guy said, "Hey, I know I was a real dick to you in high school, but I'm in a bad way right now." And I'm like, "All right, let's see let's see what we can do to help." So it's just so funny that the way social media, like, you could be anybody you want on social media, but at the end of the day, I sleep very well at night. I work out of my house. My sister-in-law just asked me today, "Hey, do you have any quandaries about working from home and the pandemic and the kids being home?" I love it. I absolutely love it. But I love that I watch these guys on social media. They don't have 2 cents to rub together. They clean like they're amazing. Or the people that lean up against cars that they clearly don't own. You could literally be anybody. And that's why I call Facebook fake book. Because you really could be anybody. So, Patrick, I think what you're doing for people, and the point I'm trying to wrap this up, is I think what you're offering somebody is an opportunity to stop faking the dream and really live the dream. And you're never too late to actually change whatever it is that you're doing. You hate it and make a change. I make changes all the time. I just don't announce it on social media. Like, people like post, "I had salmon for dinner." Who gives a shit? So it's just funny, like, how people are on social media. Grind like nobody else is grinding. When people are sleeping, grind, but get it done. But be productive. Don't be like these people that are out there with the fake watches and the cars they can't afford and the houses that they over leverage or whatever it is. Just be real. So, Patrick, I love what you're all about. I love the essence. I love the fact that, you had to drive through a dump to get to where you were. That should be the title for your book if you ever write one. Lee, you were a waiter and you scrubbed toilets, whatever it is, and look at what you do now. So, like, everybody has a story. So it is what it is. I don't have anything else to add tonight. I think social media to me is a joke. Sometimes
I would agree with that. And I got one quick story. So a woman
Yeah.
that is a real estate coach who is coaching people in the real estate space, I got a chance to meet. And, long story short, I got a chance to go and actually, intimately see, what her situation was. And I am telling you, she had 100,000 followers. And I was like shocked and surprised with her living conditions. And look, it's one thing. Look, if you got money, you wear it, you drive it, you live in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, success leaves clues. Social media, it can be 100%, completely the opposite of what people think it really is. And so that's what I like so much about you, Matt, when I met you and I heard you speak. And what I find is that when you spend time with somebody, it's either going to promote them or expose them. And that's what I find the more time, and I'm sure Lee as a lawyer will tell you, they eventually start to show you who they truly are. Everybody meets their representative first. But then when you spend enough time with them, then you get to really meet the real thing. It's like, I met your representative and I know what you think you are, but then I'm about to find out who you truly are.
It's well said.
Absolutely. Lee, you agree with that?
I do.
I guess really, it's really in any business that we're in. It doesn't matter what it is. This week, I would say last week and this week have been very hard on me because of you think that you know someone, you rely on them, you think they're going to be there for you, they'll be your backbone. I'm here for you whenever you need them. And then you find out that the majority of people that are out there legitimately, they're full of shit. And they're really out from the sets. And there's a lot of just words, unfortunately. So
look, I think most people think they have friends when their friends are really their associates.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that's why I want to dive a little deeper tonight and go over a little bit tonight because, Patrick, I love what you offer. I love the fact that you actually care. You presented me with, what it is that you offer. I may or may not get involved in it, but at least you presented the opportunity with me. And I got to tell you, I'm now 50, and you're literally the first person that ever talked about residual income, but talked about it like, this is my way of life. This is what I do. This is what I love. This is my passion. This is how I feed my family. This is what I offer, to the people that are around me. And you have that feeling of, you get that glow. You want to share your excitement versus the majority of people. So I would say, for me, for anybody else, Lee, or anybody that's watching this now on the replay, look into Patrick, see what he is. I mean, it's pretty impressive to see you, Patrick, in front of a crowd of 20,000 people speaking. And there were, like I told you before we got on, there were people like, dude, do you realize who you're having on your show? And I'm like, yeah, I know who I'm on my show. So it's like, it's a cool thing to have people like yourself in my life that's a real friend that doesn't look at somebody else as a meal ticket. I have my own social media presence. You're not pushing at that. You're, hey man, what can I do to try to help you? And I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Let's keep making a difference between the three of us. And thank you both. And appreciate the opportunity to be on here tonight and looking forward to the future together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Guys, this is something I used to do before. I'm starting it again at the end of every show. I do my signature point. So I want to see if you guys can do it as well. All right, we'll give it a shot. Lee, I don't know. Lee, you're always trying to shoot me like you're shooting with a gun. I don't like it, Lee. You offend me. All right, guys, we'll be back. Guys, just remember, it's not a no until you get a restraining order.